The long-awaited metal model of the RG353 series is finally here. Let's see if Anbernic has bothered to address our complaints about the previous models and updated anything else. TLDR, they didn't, but ooh, metallic case. We have the RG353M itself, which we will show in more detail shortly. Underneath the packaging we have a 64GB micro SD card, which is used for the game storage. There is a user manual sheet, one side is in English and the other in Chinese. We have a USB Type-C charge cable which plugs into the right side port on the handheld. And last but not least, we have a screen protector and some wipes for when applying it to the screen. The RG353M is available in two colours, blue and deep purple. The blue colour was a very popular colour on the past models. Which is your favourite? Let us know in the comments. The RG353M measures around 5.7 by 2.7 by 0.62 inches and weighs 232 grams. The display is a 3.5 inch IPS multi-touchscreen with a 640 by 480 screen resolution. On the front are your standard gaming controls with dual analog sticks, D-pad and gaming buttons. On the left side is the volume rocker and on the right are the power and reset buttons. On top are shoulder and trigger buttons. There is a 3.5mm headphone port, USB Type-C OTG port, a mini HDMI port for connecting to a TV or monitor, a second USB Type-C port which is used for the charging, and finally a function button which is used to bring up the in-game menu. On the bottom are two micro SD card slots. The first is used for the Linux operating system and the second is used for the storage card where your games are kept on. The RG353M is powered by the RK5566 quad-core Cortex-A55 CPU running up to 1.8 GHz. There's 2 GB of LPDDR4 RAM and 32 GB of internal eMMC storage for Android 11. The Linux OS comes on its own 16 GB card. For communications there is Wi-Fi 5 and Bluetooth 4.2. It runs from a 3500 mAh rechargeable battery lasting up to 7 hours. In our tests running the Antutu benchmark on a loop, we got just over 5 hours battery life, which is very good. Battery life will of course vary depending on what software you are using. We run some system benchmarks so we can compare the performance to other Android based handhelds. For Antutu we got a score of 96,015. And for 3D Mark Mobile Slingshot Benchmark we got a score of 755. And on Geekbench 5 we got single and multi-core scores of 125 and 413. Comparing these results with the RG353 P&V models, we can see that they are all performing roughly the same as each other. However, the M model does have the overall higher scores out of the range. We covered much of the RK5566 processor's performance in our recent RG353V and VS review. Overall, the Linux performance is pretty good for up to the Dreamcast era. It is here that you will find that some games do not run at full speed but are still fairly playable. For PSP you will find that some games are playable, usually those running at 30 FPS by default such as GTA Vice City, or games that are not as highly demanding. For the other older handheld systems such as GBA, you should not have any major issues. We tried a few games and they all worked great. For its dual screen brother, the majority of games should run fine. We did not notice any unplayable frame rate issues, but there are probably a couple. And of course, older 16-bit systems such as the Mega Drive and earlier 8-bit such as the PC Engine will have no issues at all. Overall, the Linux side of the OS works just fine. Everything is set up ready to be played, no major complaints here. Unsurprisingly, nothing has changed since we last reviewed the RG353V Android OS. It still feels unfinished with some emulators installed but not set up. There is no Google Play Store pre-installed, so you will have to resort to other methods to install that or use other apps. Luckily, we have made a guide on how to get the Play Store installed and running. Follow the link in the description. We would really like to see this as standard in all Android OS models, but I think we have a better chance of winning the lottery than seeing this. Once again, RetroArch is the saving grace for the Android OS. With it, you can download a decent number of emulator cores for computers and consoles, ranging from Amstrad CPC up to PlayStation Portable era. The majority of systems up to PlayStation 1 should work fine. Dreamcast does run smoother on Android, but you will need to install the ReDream emulator yourself. Performance is not amazing for the PSP, however it will be a little faster than on Linux. You will not get 60 FPS on God of War, more like the mid-30s with some tweaking. As for either SX2 and Dolphin emulators, it remains a mystery why Anbernic installed them, as you will not get much running on either emulator. I'm not a fan of the Android side of the OS, it takes a lot of setting up and I'm still not quite sure why Anbernic left it half finished. With some time you can make it work well, but overall you are better off using Linux OS. We usually find ourselves looking to custom firmware to get the best out of these handhelds. ArkOS was recently updated to add support for the RG353M and it works great. With ArkOS you get an overall smoother experience with over 90 classic gaming systems, regular software updates which can be done over Wi-Fi and much more. We highly recommend installing ArkOS on just about any handheld it supports. You can find an easy to follow step-by-step guide on how to install it in the description. If you have any of the previous RG353 based systems, then there's not really any reason to upgrade apart from that it is in a metal case. The performance is nearly identical across all the models, as is the Linux and Android OS software. Going back to the metal case, it does give the handheld a premium feel and a nice weight to it. The deep purple colour is okay and the blue colour is spot on in my opinion. I can't lie, the metal case does make the handheld look great. If you have one of the older RG series or are buying a retro handheld for the first time, then the RG353M is perhaps the best out of the series. The metal case is our deciding factor here, and we do also recommend installing ArkOS to get the very best out of the handheld. You can learn more about the RG353M and order yours today at DROIX.co.uk or DROIX.net for worldwide shipping. Use the discount code RG353M50FF on the checkout. That wraps up our review of the Anbernic RG353M. We hope you found it useful. Please subscribe to keep up to date with our latest reviews so you do not miss any. Thanks for watching and we hope to see you back in the next video.